Good morning, students. My name is Samuel Chukwuemeka. In this video, we shall discuss the United States Customary System, area measure. The prerequisite video for this is the United States Customary System, linear measure, conversion between units. It is recommended that you view the prerequisite video before viewing this video. When we talked about linear measure, we talked about one dimension. We considered just one dimension, which is the length or distance. Now, when we talk about area measure, we are considering two dimensions. Okay, we are considering two dimensions. If it's something like rectangle, we talk about the length and the width. If it is a triangle, we talk about the, if it's a right triangle, we talk about the base and the height. But we just talk about two dimensions when we talk about area. So linear is one dimension, area two dimensions. We shall still do the one of cubic, which is the volume measure, and that is three dimensions, okay? So that is the difference. Now, another thing is that in linear, because it's one dimension, we have something like inches, yard, feet. But area, because it's two dimensions, whereby we have to multiply two dimensions, we now have a feet squared, or you can say square feet. Okay, you can say square feet, or you say inches squared, or you say square inches, or inches squared. So, because it is two dimensions now, multiplication of two dimensions, so that's why it's now squared. Okay, so let's begin. So, let's look at the customary units of area measure. We see that 1 square feet is equal to, 1 square foot is equal to 144 square inches. 1 square foot is equal to 144 square inches. 1 square yard is equal to 9 square feet. 1 square rod is equal to 30.25 square yards. 1 acre is equal to 160 square rod. 1 acre is also equal to 43,560 square feet. 1 square mile is equal to 640 acres. And if you look at your right, the symbol, that is what it means, the symbols. Question 1. Convert 196 square inches as square feet. Now, we want to convert this, and we also want to express it to the same number of significant digits. Express our answer. We want to round our answer to the same number of significant digits as the original quantity. So we are going to convert this, and whatever answer we get, we want to round it excuse me, we want to round it to the same number of significant digits as the original quantity. So if you look at the original quantity, we have 3 significant digits. So whatever we get our answer as, we have to round it to 3 significant digits. Okay, you can solve this by 2 methods. just like we mentioned in the video on conversion between units for linear measure, we mentioned we have two methods where we on solving that. So the same applies to this case. We can solve this using two methods, and I'm going to use those two methods, but as we solve other problems, I would like to use a unity fraction method. Yeah. So the two methods that we can use, the first method, we can use the method of proportions. Method of proportions. And the second method we can use is the unity fraction method. Unity fraction method. So I will first of all use the method of proportions. Now, with the method of proportions, you ask yourself, I'll first of all use the method of proportions. You ask yourself, how many units are we talking about? From the question, you ask yourself, how many units are we talking about? We are talking about 2. And what are the units? Square inches, we underline it, and square feet. Okay, we're talking about 2 units, square inches, and square feet. Then, on the first line, in the first line, we say, okay, what is the relationship between square inches and square feet? What is the relationship between square inches and square feet? So we look at our table, and we see that 1 square foot is 144 square inches. So on the square foot, we have to put 1, and under square inches, we put 144. Then, in the question, it now asks you convert 196 square inches. So where do I put the 196? You'll see I'm going to put it under square inches. On the second line, I put 196 under the square inches. And then on the square feet, I don't know what it is, so I put a variable, x. Because I don't know what it is, I put a variable x. So let's go ahead and form proportion on this, okay? So I can say that 144 all over 196 equal to 1 over x, or I can form another proportion and say that 144 over 1 equal to 196 over x. Or I can form another proportion and say x over 1 equal to 196 over 144. Or I can form another proportion, x over 196 equal to 1 over 144. So these are the ways you can form a proportion. If you want to learn more about proportions, you view the videos on my videos on proportions. Okay, so you can use any of these 4 proportions and you will still get the same answer. So let me use the third one because it's kind of straightforward. Well, any of them is straightforward anyway. Okay. The third one is just, you go ahead and divide it right away. Let me use the third one and then the first one. So if I use the third one, I have that x over 1 is 196 over 144. And of course, x over 1 is x already. So my x, the x is equal to 196 divided by 144. will give us 1.3611111111. So, but we have to round it to the 3 significant digits. So that will give us 1.36. And we do not forget to write our units. We don't forget to write our unit. So it's going to be 1.36 square feet. And that becomes our answer. Now, somebody might decide to use proportion 1, the first proportion. And if you use that, 144 over 196 equal to 1 over x, then you have to do what we call cross product or cross multiply. When you have two proportions like this, then you can use cross product or cross multiply. That is one of the ways to solve it. We have other ways to solve it as well. So this means it's like a cross, okay, or an X. Some people call it the butterfly method. So I'll multiply the numerator of the fraction on the left hand side with the denominator of the fraction on the right hand side, and I will equate it to the multiplication of the numerator of the fraction of the right hand side with the denominator of the fraction on the left hand side. So I now have that 144 times x is equal to 196 times 1. So I have that 144x is equal to 196. And then I divide both sides by 144. So I'll write it again to avoid confusion. 144 divided by 144 will give me 196 divided by 144. And of course, 144 divided by 144 is 1. So I will now have that my x, this implies that x is now 1.36 square feet. Now, this is the method of proportions. Okay, but like I said, I would prefer to use the second method, unity fraction method. So let's go ahead and use that. With the unity fraction method, I will come first and I will write square inches, because that is what I was given. I was given square inches. And then I will put my multiplication sign, okay, asterisk, so you can use dot. So you write square inches, which you were given, and you want to convert to what? To square feet, right? So I write square feet here. At the numerator, I write square feet, and at the denominator, I write square inches. Now, the goal is for later on for square inches here at the numerator to cancel or to cross out the square inches at the denominator, so that you're left with only the square feet at the numerator. So I was given 196 square inches, right? So I'll have to write the 196 square inches first, then times, I will now do a fraction bar. I will put in a fraction bar, and at the denominator I will write square inches, because my goal is for it to divide it, to cross out, and then I will now be left with a square feet. So what you are given, which is the square inches, you want to put it at the denominator, and then what you want to convert to, which is a square feet, you want to put it at the numerator. So then you ask yourself, what is the relationship between square inches and square feet? So we see that 1 square foot is equal to 144 square inches. So once you write this, then you can now go ahead and cross out the square inches here, square inches here. So you are now left with 196 times 1 square feet all over 144. Okay? Then you now divide this. And when you divide and then round your answer to the 3 significant digits, you now have a 1.36 square feet. And that becomes your answer. So that is the technique there, okay? So let's do some more problems. Question 2. 44.8 square feet are square yards. So I will come and write 44.8 square feet. Then I put my multiplication and I put my fraction bar. Under this I'll write the square feet at the denominator. And then what do I want to convert it to? Square yards. I write square yards at the numerator. Then I'll ask myself, what is the relationship between a square feet and square yards? You look at the table. 1 square yard is 9 square feet. So I put 1 square yard, 1 here, and I put 9 here. Then I will have the square feet here to cancel the square feet here, to cross out the square feet there. And then, of course, I have a 44.8 times 1 is 44.8. Then divided by 9. And that gives us like 4.97777 something. Now, you want to round your answer to the number of significant digits in the original quantity. And in the original quantity, we have 3 significant digits. Please, you can view my videos on significant digits if you don't understand how many significant digits we have there. So we have 3 significant digits, and when you round your answer, it gives us now 4.98 square yards. And this becomes our answer. Question 3. Convert 1700 acres as square miles. So we write 1700 acres times, we want to put acres here, and we want to put square miles here. Okay? So, what is the relationship between acres and square miles? We have that 1 square mile, we put 1 square mile is 640 acres. And of course, acres will divide acres to give us 1. And then when we multiply 1700 times 1, it gives us 1700. Divided by 640 gives us a 2.65625. But our original quantity has 2 significant digits. So if we round our answer to 2 significant digits, we now have 2.7 square miles as our answer. Question 4. 2.34 square feet are square inches. So we write 2.34 square feet times, we have the square feet, and here we have square inches. So we check the relationship. We see that 1 square foot is 144 square inches. Square foot, we'll cross out square foot. And then we now do 2.34 times 144. Gives us 336.96. Now, our original quantity has 3 significant digits. So if we round up our answer to 3 significant digits, our answer was 336.96. If we round it up to 3 significant digits, we have 337 square inches.
And that becomes our answer.
Question 5. 4.20 square yards are square feet. So we have a 4.20 square yards times, we of course write our square yards here and our square feet here. And we ask ourselves, what is the relationship between a square yards and square feet? We see that 1 square yards is 9 square feet. Okay, then our square yard crosses out the square yards. And we now have a 4.20 times 9. That gives us a 37.8. And that is the same thing as that has the same significant digits as the original quantity. So we have our answer is 37.8 square feet.
And that becomes our answer.
Question 6. 2.150 acres are square feet. So we write 2.150 acres times, acres will be at the denominator and square feet will be at the numerator. Now you ask, what is the relationship between acres and square feet? We have that 1 acre is equal to 43,560 square feet. So our acres here will cross out our acres here. And we now have a 2.150 times 43,560 will give us a 93,654. Now you have to be careful. How many significant digits does the original quantity have? That is 4. It has 4 significant digits. Okay? So, and your answer is 93,654 square feet, which is 5 significant digits. But you want to round it up to the same number of significant digits as the original quantity. So, you want to round it to 4 significant digits. So this will now be, this was what you have. If you multiply that, this is what you have, 93,654. But if you now round it up, you now have 93,650 square feet. This now has 4 significant digits. Okay, that's the way you solve it. Now this is, so that's the way you solve it. Alright?
And this becomes our answer.
Question 7. 871,000 square feet are square miles. Let's read the question again. 871,000 square feet are square miles. Now, we check these two guys here. Look at your table right away. Look at your table. Do you see any relationship? Do you see any direct? Do you see any direct relationship between square feet and square miles in your table? In the table I gave you for area. You do not. Okay, there is no direct relationship between square feet and square miles. Now, what we do have is a relationship between square feet and acre, and also square mile and acre. We don't have any direct relationship between square feet and square miles in the table I gave you. So, but we have somebody in between. And that person in between is the acres. So you will have to be careful here on how you will do this. You have a middle person now. You don't have, now This is a case whereby you want to buy stock. You want to buy some stocks from a company, right? Or some shares from a company, and that company does not sell directly to customers. Rather, the company uses a stockbroker. So some stocks or shares, you go through a stockbroker. The stockbroker is the middleman. And you know, sometimes it creates problems, right? You want to go directly to the company straight on and buy your shares. So this is kind of a little, it's not really confusing. You just have to be extra careful on the way you set it up. If you want to use the unity fraction method to solve it, you will have to set it up correctly. Now, how do we go about this to solve it using unity fraction method? We will first of all write what we are given, 871,000 square feet, then times. Now we have two guys. We have a guy in between, so we have to use that. This is not direct. There is no direct relationship. So we have to put the guy in between. Now, and we see the guy in between is the acres. Acres, right? So here, in the square feet here, we have to write the square feet below so that it will cancel out. It will cross out later on. And then the guy in between, we now write him on top, acres. Okay, and then in the second fraction bar, okay, that's in the last fraction bar, this acres here, you now write him on that because you want to cross him out, and then you now write the square miles. What do you want to find? Square miles on top. So you just have to be careful here on the way you set it up. Okay, because you have a middle guy in between, you have to include him, and that middle guy in the second stage you write him on top, okay, and in the third stage you write him below. That's on top means at the numerator, and in the last stage, the third stage, you write him below at the denominator, because our aim is for square feet to still cross out square feet, and for acres to still cross out acres. That is our aim. So that we are now left with only square miles. So let's go ahead and let's now finish this up. You now ask yourself, what is the relationship? Now I crossed it out before I started doing this. So let me just undo what I did. I'll still cross it out later, but just to show you. So you now ask yourself, what is the relationship between square feet and acres? You look at your table, we see that 1 acre is 43,560 square feet. And then you ask yourself, what is the relationship between acres and square miles? We see that 1 square mile is 640 acres. So on the square mile, you put 1, and on the acres, you put 640 acres. Okay? Then after writing this, you can now go ahead and cross out the square feet here, and you cross out the acres here. So you have now 871,000 times 1 times 1 square mile all over 43,560 times 640. Okay, you have to do this, using the order of operations. You have to, so that you don't make mistakes. So this will be 871,000 square miles divided by, when you multiply that stuff, that's the denominator. When you multiply that, you have a 27878 400. You see, I am doing it step by step. So you do it step by step so you don't make mistakes. You don't want to make mistakes in this area measure. So it will give us a 0.031242282599 and so on. So, but you look at your question, how many significant digits does 871,000 have? It's 3 significant digits. So when you round that up, when you round your answer up to 3 significant digits, you have a 0.0312 square miles. And this becomes your answer. Now, we have done this with unity fraction method. We can still do this with method of proportions. But if you're using method of proportions, you will do it 2 times. Okay, if you're using method of proportions, you're going to do it 2 times. So, you will do it first, square feet and acres. Then you get how many acres. Then you now do acres and square miles. You have to do it 2 times, okay? I want to keep this video as short as possible, so I wouldn't have time to do that with the proportions, but you can still do it. Okay, you do, first of all, square feet to acres, then get what 871,000 square feet is in acres, and then whatever it is in acres, you now convert to square miles. You now do acres and square miles, and then get what it is in square miles. Okay? Next question. Question 8. 0.0250 square miles are square feet. Okay, so you look at the relationship between square miles and square feet, and you see that we don't have any direct relationship. We don't. We've got to pass through the middle guy, the stockbroker, called acre. We've got to pass through acre, the stockbroker, right? So we have a 0.0250 square mile times, we have the middle guy here, and here we will have the square mile here, and we put the middle guy acre on top, times this middle guy acre we now put in below here, and then we put a square feet here, what we want to convert to, on top. Square feet. Okay? So, what is our relationship between acres and square miles? We have that 1 square mile is 640 acres. Then what is our relationship between acres and square feet? We have that 1 acre is 43,560 square feet. And then let's cross out the units here. Square miles divide square miles. Acres divide acres. And we now have only square feet. So we now have a 0.0250 times 640 times 43,560 square feet. All divided by 1 times 1, which is 1. So when you multiply everything, it gives you a 696,960 square feet. But you want to change it to the same number of significant digits as the original. Now the original has 3 significant digits. Okay, 3. So if you round your answer to the same number of significant digits as the original, which is, if you round your answer to 3 significant digits, you will have a 697,000 square feet. And that becomes our answer. Question 9. The last but not the least. 0.080 square yards are square inches. You look in your table, do you have a relationship, direct relationship between square yard and square inches? No, we don't. What is the middle guy? Look at your table and tell me the middle guy. Who is the stockbroker here? In our table, we have a square feet and square inches, and then we have square yard and square feet. So we don't have directly between yard and inches, square yards and square inches. So the middle guy that is joining the square yard and square inches, the middle guy is the square feet. Excuse me. If you look at your table, you will see the middle guy is the square feet. Okay? So we now have 0.080 square yards. Multiply. You put the square yard below at the denominator, and you put the middle guy square feet at the numerator. Then in the third stage, you put the middle guy square feet at the denominator. And what do you now want to find? Square inches. You put it at the numerator. Square inches at the numerator. Okay? So what is the relationship between square yards and square feet? We have that 1 square yard is 9 square feet. What is the relationship between square feet and square inches? We have that 1 square foot is 144 square inches. So we can now cross out square yards will divide square yards, square feet will divide square feet. And we now have 0.080 times 9 times 144 square inches. All divided by 1 times 1. Now when you do this, you have a 103.68 square inches. But if you look at the original problem, you have a how many significant digits? You have 2 significant digits. But you see here, there's no way. Now, look at this now. This sometimes you kind of wonder what your answer will be here. And there's something I want to mention here. When you do this problem, you have a 103.68 square inches, right? But your original quantity, 0.080, has a 2 significant digits, right? So in this case, actually, what do you do? We have this to be 2 significant digits, 2 significant figures or 2 significant digits, and our answer is 5 significant digits. But when we the maximum we can make it, the minimum we can make it is 3 significant digits, right? So in this case, you can manipulate your answer to say like 13 or so. No, you can't do that. Okay, you have to round up to the ones you can get, which is 3 significant digits, which is 104 square inches. Okay, now in this case you can't do anything. Okay, the best you can get it is 3 significant digits. Now this is acceptable because you can also look at it this way. If you look at it this way, that 0.080 is the same thing as 0.0800. Okay, if you look at it this way now, this has 3 significant digits. So you can look at it that way. And this becomes our final answer. 104 square inches. Thank you so much, students, for listening. I'm going to stop this video here. Try to get it within time. Please watch out for more videos. Thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions, go to my website, www.samdomforpeace.com, or you just bring your questions in class. Have a great day.